Hey y'all, my name is Travis, and today we're walking through job costing in a cost plus job. Before we begin, I want to focus on a couple settings you'll probably want to adjust. The first of which is under Edit Job. We want to make sure this is set to cost plus. This really helps us with our profit projections. You can imagine for a fixed price contract, if you exceed your budget, you are actually going to eat into your profit. Cost plus, that's not totally the case. One other thing I'd recommend is under Budget View Settings, click that gear icon and scroll down to the purple section. We want to turn on the projected price and we want to turn off the approved price. You don't have to turn off the approved price, but the point of this is that we want to focus on the moving target, which is the projected price. What I mean by that is, again, on a cost plus job, if you exceed your budget, you're actually going to be forwarding that cost along to the customer plus your profit. So the price of the project is going to increase. I'll talk about that in just a moment. So from here though, let's say you had a regular contract signed by the customer order's been approved. That's what locks in the budget for each item that you included on that proposal. And then everything else here in the job costing section, we're going to be comparing against that budget. So the committed cost is only going to be applicable if your company is using purchase orders, but if you exceed the budget, that's going to increase the projected cost for that portion of the job. For bills specifically, these are going to be your receipts. Every material cost, every subcontractor that you pay, all of these bills will be recorded per line. You can click on the number, of course, to see all of the bills that make up this total. If you're using time tracking, then the cost of the time as well as the actual hours are going to be posted here. And then the actual cost is going to be a sum of both your bills and time. The most important column on this page, in my opinion, is going to be the projected cost. This is showing you how much we think you're going to spend on this portion of the project in order to complete it. Anything at the start of the job that might have bills on it, notice how, like for this permit example, my budget was $550, I've spent $2,000. My projected cost immediately updates to $2,000 because we know the information. Where it becomes a bit more unknown are going to be the things that are happening in the future. So take a random example, take it law clear, and we have a total budget of $5,600. Your projected cost is also $5,600 because, again, we don't know if you have more bills coming for that part of the project or not. And take the example of an electrician, right? You're going to pay him for multiple draws over the course of the project. So you're not assuming that first bill that you pay out to the sub to be the total projected cost. We still anticipate you're going to spend the full budget, but again, if you go over, we will update that automatically. If you truly do have a situation where you are under budget, you can mark that line item as final, and then that will force the system to treat your projected cost as your actual cost, which again is great for realizing when you're under budget. So how does this impact our profit projections? When we have that setting for cost plus turned on, that's really going to allow us to understand what's the total amount of profit we're going to make, but then also what is the customer going to pay for this job, because it might have gone up, it might have gone down, right? So that projected price right here is something that will change depending on how your cost projections go. So again, on this permit example, I went up to $2,000. That's my spend, and we still assume that 20% profit on top. So that's why my new projected price for this portion of the project is now $2,500. The reason my profit is in green is because we are technically making more money today than we originally thought we would on the estimate we sent the customer. So now I'm going to make about $500 on this particular line item, which is a variance of $362.50. On the flip side, where you come under budget, same situation, right? We're taking 20% on top in our example. So now I'm going to be making less than I originally anticipated. So that's kind of the main difference here with, cost plus versus fixed price. Anytime you go over budget, you're actually making a little bit more. Anytime you go under budget, you're actually making a little bit less. But I think we really need to focus on the bottom line here. So your total spend as a company looks to be about $270,000. Price to the customer is going to be $336 at this moment in time. So that's the basics of how you do job costing and JobTread. And again, some of the nuance that might come with the cost plus side of things. But I do want to mention one more thing. We do have a setting in the main settings that just says tracking by cost item or track by cost code. I do want to bring this up just in case this applies to your company. If some of the numbers you're seeing on the budget don't really make sense, it's just not mathing out the way you thought it might, check this setting right here. So track by cost item is the default. That's saying we're trying to track our receipts against the line items that we added into our budget. If you have this setting turned on that says track by cost code, that's a bit different because what you're technically adding into a job's budget are cost items. Every cost item is going to be tied to a backend accounting code. This setting really allows you to be a little bit more general with your receipt and your time tracking. So just know if you have that setting turned on, you have to turn on this setting back in your budget. So if I go look at my job costing section again, make sure you're grouping by cost code so the numbers make sense. Again, this would only be applicable if you are tracking by the cost code. If you're doing that, you also want to make sure that you are organizing your job costing by code as well, because the math is now being done at the code level and not necessarily the line item level. So if you have any questions about anything we discussed today, certainly reach out to your CSM or contact support@jobtread.com. Thanks so much.